Alright guys, welcome back to another video, and today we're here to talk about the Nintendo Switch 2. It has finally been revealed. We have all the details on the cost, game prices, which we're definitely going to be talking about, launch day games, and everything that the Nintendo Switch is going to offer, and all the changes and stuff like that. And I wanted to give you guys my opinions on everything, and if I'm going to get one on launch day, some of the things that I'm annoyed with, some of the things that I'm excited about that they're doing, and everything in between. So, let's go ahead and get into the video.
Gaming tech, eating brekkie is the gaming tech. Going for a brekkie is the gaming tech. Gaming tech is the gaming tech. Gaming techie.
Alright guys, so let's go ahead and start off and just talk about the hardware and everything that the Nintendo Switch does. A lot of the similarities that you remember from the Switch one are still here. Of course, you can still dock it. You can put it on your table and use the Joy-Cons and take them out, and now they magnetically connect. So they're magnetized now. You just still have to hold the button in the back to obviously unmagnetize them, but they're apparently really strong. But everything that you would expect from the tabletop mode and, docking it onto your Switch and stuff like that to play on your TV is all still here. Plays very similar to the way that the Nintendo Switch did. Of course, with this new color scheme with the blue and red on the side and the now bigger screen that is on this Nintendo Switch. So that's one of the things that I'm really excited about is the bigger screen. It's now a 7.9-inch screen compared to the original Switch that was 6.2. Obviously, the OLED got a little bit closer to the 7-inch screen, so it's still bigger regardless. And another big feature is, of course, that display. It is now a 1080p screen, up from the 720p screen that we had on the Nintendo Switch. So we're going to see a pretty nice increase. Of course, nobody expected the display itself to be 4K. That would have been ludicrous, and no games would have ran at that anyway for the most part. But what's also really exciting is that it is 120 FPS screen, so you're going to be able to get that higher refresh rate. Some of the games that they talked about already, they're letting us know that, hey, you can choose from 120 frames per second or 60 frames in 4K, so it's going to be up to your choice on the TV. It is an LCD screen, and it's not OLED, but it does support HDR. I wish it had OLED, but, LCDs have come a long way, so hopefully that is something that, continues to go, and we end up seeing this LCD screen and it ends up getting good reports that it looks fantastic, even though it's not an OLED, because we've had some LCD screens that look amazing. Still would have wanted an OLED, because I already have an OLED Switch, but, regardless. But that's how you can see that the magnets come off of the actual Joy-Cons that I was talking about before. They did change a little bit of the things. The buttons on the side are a little bit bigger, which is freaking great, because we definitely needed that. Those buttons were also so small every time we used them. The larger control sticks is always good. Because, those things were made for small hands when you were using those Joy-Cons for sure. So I'm excited that those are better. And one of the biggest new things that comes with this Nintendo Switch is the fact that you can use this as a mouse, which is opening up a lot of possibilities to a lot of different games that they're talking about. Like here, you're looking at Metroid and stuff like that, Metroid 4. That's going to be coming. They haven't announced a launch date yet, but you're going to be able to use that to basically use it as a mouse and move it around. And then they have this new game that they announced too coming in summer that's like... I guess I could compare it to like Rocket League-ish, where you're playing 3v3 and shooting basketballs and stuff, which is an interesting game as well, that got announced for the Switch 2. And then they also did improve the sound and stuff like that as well. Apparently having clearer sound and louder audio built into the Nintendo Switch. And one of the biggest new things is the built-in voice chat or microphone that's on the Nintendo Switch. We're going to talk about more of this later. But that's going to be fantastic because they have a new entire social thing, which they definitely needed as far as talking to people and, communicating with people and stuff like that, which I'm really excited about. Again, we'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. And then they also have 3D audio, so if you connect your pair of headphones and stuff, like a lot of other consoles have, you're going to be able to get that sense of presence with the audio coming from different directions, left, right, behind you, all that kinds of stuff that you would expect. So we're going to have that supported on the Nintendo Switch finally, which is obviously great to see when you pair a pair of headphones to it. Of course, it also has that stand on the back that we were talking about, so you're going to be able to stand it up the same way you did the original Nintendo Switch, but this one looks to be a little bit more sturdier. You can move it all the way down if you want to, or pull it up. It does have 2 USB-C ports on it, one on the bottom to connect to the dock or to charge and stuff like that, and then the one on the top is mostly... probably more than likely for the camera system that they're talking about. Here's the camera that they're going to be selling here for $49.99, and that's basically to be used with the social stuff that we're going to talk about here in a minute, that you're going to be able to put yourself in games, which I'm actually really excited about that. And then they also have more storage on the thing, so instead of coming with the original 32 gigabytes that the Nintendo Switch had, it is now coming with 256 gigabytes. Still not a huge amount of storage compared to now, but still better than what we expected. I didn't even know if they were going to go above 64 when it first got announced. So I'm excited that at least there's some sort of storage to hold at least a few games on there as well. The dock itself does support 4K, so when you plug in a Nintendo Switch to the TV, you're going to be able to use this in 4K, 4K 60, or If you use 1080p or 1440p, then you could do 120 frames per second, depending on what you set your resolution to on the TV. So that's really exciting that we finally have that to be able to play these games in 4K. I can't wait to see Mario Kart and these other games kind of looking what they look like here on the Switch 2 compared to the Switch 1 in 4K, and Zelda and all those other games that we obviously all look forward to all the time. That's going to be really exciting to play. Of course, all your Nintendo Switch games, or not all of them, most of them are going to be working on the Switch 2. So you're going to be able to, copy your digital games over, transfer them, or play your physical cartridges and all that stuff on the Switch 2. And that's going to be really exciting. Obviously, we don't have to start our libraries all over again. Obviously, there's going to be some caveats with some games not being compatible, things like Ring Fit and some of the stuff like that. But for the most part, they're all going to be there. And this does launch on June 5th, so not that far. Now, one of the bigger things that they announced here is, again, talking about that social stuff and that camera and the game chat service. That C button that's on the controllers that a lot of people were wondering, what's that C button for, is actually for game chat. That's actually what it's for. I saw a lot of predictions before this even started that it was going to be like a C button for the mouse and all this stuff. But no, it ended up being a social thing. And basically, think about the C button as hitting like a Discord kind of thing where you can play with your friends and you can see that bottom bar there on the TV that you can have your friends up on there and kind of talk to them. And kind of like Discord where you're just voice chatting and stuff, but that's a huge deal compared to the Nintendo Switch 1 where you had to use that stupid app on your phone that everybody hated. Now you can actually have this all here, and yes, you can get rid of it from the screen, and it doesn't have to take up your whole entire screen like it's showcasing in this video. You can just have your friends kind of minimized and still be in voice chat calls and not see their tiles at the bottom, so your game takes up the full screen. This is just the way that they're doing it. And like I said, the Switch has a built-in microphone, so it's going to be able to, if you're playing on portable, you're going to be able to hear it, or if you're playing it on the TV, it's still apparently going to be able to hear you pretty well, and has a lot of noise cancellation features, so it doesn't hear like things in the background and stuff like you guys are seeing here. We'll obviously see how that actually works and see how well it actually works with the way they're touting it on here. But regardless, it's a good start, and like I said, Nintendo's always been really behind the 8 ball when it comes to social stuff. So this is a pretty big deal. I'm really digging the whole game chat features lineup and what they're doing with it. The fact that you can screen share your games with your friends, and everybody could be playing a different thing too. You don't all have to be playing the same thing, but if you're all playing Mario Kart and you're not in the same household, you can still feel like you're in the same household because everyone's going to be sharing their screen and you can see it at the bottom like you guys are seeing here. And that's going to be really cool because you're going to be able to see people's Mario screens and stuff like that while they're playing Mario Kart. And you're going to feel a lot more connected to your friends. So I think this is going to be a lot of fun. It's going to make it a lot easier for people to use. Obviously, this is not new technology or anything. It's new on the Switch, but this isn't something that crazy that people haven't done before. But just to have it this easy of a push of a button to be able to do it built into the operating system is going to make a lot of people use it, in my opinion, when it comes to this kind of stuff. And again, you can use it with all kinds of games. And Game Chat is going to be included for free up until March of 2026 in kind of like an open beta. And then it's going to have to be you have to be part of Nintendo Switch Online. So it's not going to be free. You're going to have a Nintendo subscription to be able to use it, which is not surprising. They want to add more value to that service. So I'm perfectly fine with it. I play for PlayStation and Xbox already, so it's not too dissimilar from that. And here you're just seeing them kind of switch on because you can, obviously, if someone's sharing a screen, you can also be all looking at the exact same screen of your friends and not yours, and kind of helping them walk through different parts of the game. Maybe they're stuck on a different level and all that kinds of stuff. So everything you would expect to be able to do when it comes to sharing, you're going to be able to do on here as well, which is obviously cool. But I'm really, really excited for Game Chat. But one of the things that they're showcasing on here is making me even more excited about it. I know this is going to be really quirky, and this is definitely a very Nintendo thing. That you're going to be able to do this, and there's that C button I was talking about on the controller. But it's the fact that when you use the game chat, you're also going to be able to do it when it comes to adding camera into the actual thing. So you're not going to just be related to just voice chat, but with that camera that you guys saw before, we're actually going to be able to do that with a video camera as well. So that camera that I was talking about that was $49.99 before, you can plug it in, and now you can obviously see people in the video chat, and it's going to use some sort of background blur effect, as you guys are looking at here, to kind of put you in your game, but not obviously just have your background of your kitchen or your game room or whatever the case may be kind of sitting there in the background. So we'll see how all of this works. Obviously, I'm excited about it. It obviously has to work well. We'll see how well all this stuff works with all the people that can be in a call and kind of doing this together and stuff like that. But it is pretty exciting that we're going to be able to use video chat with our friends and kind of have the game in the background and playing with each other and seeing Mario Kart and all the other games that like Mario Party that are going to be doing it. But this is where it gets interesting to me. is that when they were incorporating it to different games, like you see Mario Party here, they're going to add little tiles to make it seem like, hey, look, while you're playing a game, you can actually see people's faces and stuff. I think that's a really unique idea that hasn't been done before with video chat. That gives it that Nintendo flavor, gives it that Nintendo touch. And for me, that stuff is cool. Mario Party is going to be a perfect fit for this, and Mario Party, is going to be a great use case for this, and I'm really excited about that. Look at Splatoon. Obviously, everybody being there on the background is going to be doing the same thing where everyone's in the video chat. You can have it so your little circles instead of being like the whole entire, self in there, so you can see it's combining different ways of doing it. You can see here they're playing volleyball and stuff like that, and you can actually showcase your room, so you can kind of do it any way you want to do it, depending on what you're trying to showcase and what you're actually playing. So I think game chat is really positive, and I can't wait to use this, in my opinion. And the camera is going to be available, of course, on launch day. And again, $49.99 for that camera. So, since we're just talking about Super Mario Party Jamboree, which is the Mario Party game that they're bringing, that's the one that all of us had on the Nintendo Switch 1. But what they're doing with some of their games here, which I think is perfectly fine, is basically giving it DLC. So Super Mario Party Jamboree is going to basically have an expansion that you're going to be able to play and purchase. They haven't said exactly what the cost is going to be, but they seem to be adding, good content to it. You can see they're adding mouse controls and stuff like that. They're adding video stuff to it. So it's not like they're just, hiring the resolution on Mario Party and then telling us that we're going to pay for it. And you can see all the different quirky mini games that you're going to be able to play with the camera and stuff like that. So I'm really excited. It's going to basically expand the original game with a lot of the features that are coming on the Nintendo Switch 2, which is exactly what Nintendo should do. And then having this little camera stuff like I talked about before is going to be super fun. And obviously we need to know how much this stuff is going to cost. We don't know if it's going to be a $9.99 upgrade, a $19.99 upgrade, or a $29.99 upgrade. We don't know. But we do know that it is going to be, something that's going to be added on to the game as DLC. And as long as they're adding a good amount of content, which in this particular game it definitely seems like they are, I'm all for it. I think it's going to be super fun. They're adding a couple of game modes to this, like you can see here, which is hilarious. And there was already a lot of content in Jamboree. Jamboree already in and of itself is an amazing game on a Switch. So if you want to play it on your Switch 2, you can. But this, what they're calling Switch 2 Enhanced Edition on the platform, is basically adding a bunch of DLC to it. And I'm excited to see all these different things. You can see all these different mini games that they're playing with the mouse controls, and the different game modes that they added onto here as well, with this little roller coaster thing where you actually have to use the mouse control and kind of like shoot things in the air and stuff like that and play different mini games. Again, they added more mini games. They didn't say how many, but they added more mini games based on all the different things that the Switch 2 can do. And they added, different quirky stuff with the mouse controls and stuff like that, and the camera stuff. So I think it's a pretty good update when it comes to DLC. I would imagine that they're going to sell this separately from $19.99 to $29.99 based on what we're seeing, as long as there's a good amount of mini games. So we'll see how that actually pans out, obviously. But Mario Party has been like a staple, and this comes out in July, and I'm super excited to see all of these different mini games. It seems like there's, again, a good amount of content on here for sure when it comes to Mario Party. And again, they're calling it Jamboree TV, so basically plus Jamboree TV, which is the Nintendo Switch 2 edition plus the Jamboree. And of course, with the Nintendo Switch 2 edition, it launches on the 24th of July, so the month after the launch day, but it is also going to have higher resolution, higher textures, and all that stuff on top of the DLC as well. So we'll see how much this costs, but I'm excited. Mario Party is always great. And also, one of the other things that they announced was a pretty big deal that a lot of people have been wanting for a while, is GameCube coming to the Nintendo Switch 2. So you're going to be able to play your GameCube game, not your GameCube games, but the ones that they release on the Nintendo Switch Online, just like they did for all the other systems that they had, like Game Boy and Game Boy Color and stuff, and Super Nintendo. Now they're doing it with the GameCube finally. Obviously, with having more horsepower on the Nintendo Switch 2 is something they're going to be able to do. And they announced a few of the games that are coming on launch day, which is obviously Zelda: The Wind Waker, as you're seeing here. These are going to have high resolution. You're going to be able to play the games online with friends if it's a multiplayer game, which is awesome. And it's going to have different widescreen modes if the game's compatible with it, all that kinds of stuff that you would expect that they kind of upgrade these games with. The fact that the GameCube games are going to have online when it makes sense is super awesome, because obviously that's not how those games released, and they never had online. So the fact that they're being ported over with online is going to be awesome, like Soul Calibur 2 here, another one of the ones that they're launching with, and F-Zero GX, which is a fantastic game, probably the best F-Zero game ever made right here. Being able to play this online is going to be super fun, and obviously the fact that it's on GameCube, these games are, look a lot better than some of the other consoles that they've released in the previous. I think GameCube still holds up pretty goddamn well. It's obviously not amazing graphics compared to systems of today, but it still holds up well, where you can play these games and not be looking at it being like, these games look terrible. Like the N64 holds up a lot less than this, for example. So it is going to be awesome that you're going to be able to play these games, and they did announce a bunch of other games coming to it later on in the future like they usually do. These are just the 3 games that they're starting off with on launch day, and we're going to get more as the time goes on. As you can see in this clip here, I'm really excited. Super Mario Sunshine, Fire Emblem, Pokemon XD, Super Mario Strikers is going to be fantastic. That's the best Super Mario Strikers ever made, so really excited. And they are going to be selling a wireless GameCube controller as well. It's also going to have that C button that we were talking about before for Game Chat, but you're going to be able to buy this controller on launch day of the Nintendo Switch 2 and also have a classic GameCube controller in your hand to play these games, which is obviously good. Now, when it comes to launch day, the big Nintendo IP, basically the only one except for the Pac-In game. Oh, not the Pac-In game, the game that should be a Pac-In game that we'll talk about here in a minute, but there's 2 launch titles that are coming directly from Nintendo that are like brand new, which is this one and their Pac-In. I keep saying Pac-In, but a game that I'll showcase here in a minute. But this is Mario Kart World, and this is looking amazing. I can't wait to see more about this. They're going to have a Nintendo Direct on April 17th to go more into detail from this game. But, obviously expect the 4K resolution. It's going to be 4K 60 or 120 frames per second at 1080p, which is going to be amazing to play on handhelds. Can't wait to see what this game looks like. But the biggest thing, and the reason why it's called World, as you guys are seeing here, you're playing with all these different vehicles and all these different maps. Look at this Donkey Kong level right here, which looks freaking awesome. You're going to see, people skiing down slopes and using all these different vehicles, going on airplanes, going on water boats and all this stuff, which is super awesome. But what's even better is that this is going to have, it's semi-open world. It's not going to open world completely, but it's going to have the standard races like you would expect here, like you're doing and you have always had in Mario Kart with online multiplayer and all that stuff, where you're going to be able to play a single cup or and all that stuff, or single levels and stuff like that. But then there's also a mode or 2 modes in the game that they added as brand new game modes that you guys are going to see here in a minute, where you can actually see the whole entire map that is part of Mario Kart World, and you can go anywhere you want. So you can race from one side of the map to another. You can play it with your friends and stuff like that, and kind of explore the map on your own leisure. And then there's also the other mode that's kind of like Battle Royale-ish, where you're basically starting on one end of the map, and then you have to run to the other side of the map, whichever way you want to go. Kind of reminds me of Forza and stuff like that, where that game mode that they have there, where you start and you have to get to the other side any way you see fit. It's kind of like that here. Look at this gigantic map that they have in Mario Kart World, and you're going to be able to explore that any way you want with your friends and kind of roam around and just mess around and go from one side to the other, exploring all the different parts. And that means that you're going to be able to find a bunch of different shortcuts to different racetracks and stuff like that, which is really interesting. But the fact that you can go anywhere on the map and you can explore all these I can't wait to see how that works. That's going to be super, super cool doing it with friends. And also that game mode where you can start from one side and race to the other side, and you can go anywhere you want and be the last one or be the first one to get there first is also really super cool. But I didn't know what they were going to do with Mario Kart to make it better than the last one, because Mario Kart 8 with all the characters and all the levels and stuff like that, obviously it had a lot to live up to because there was a lot there. But, I think they might have done it. This is looking fantastic. The fact that you can race anywhere and have all these different courses, but still have the cups as well if you just want to race one track. And I can't wait to see more about it on April 17th. Like I said, we don't really know what a lot of the courses are and what they're designed on. Obviously, I saw that Donkey Kong one there before, and that kind of give you reminiscence of the Donkey Kong from original. And this Knockout Tour is what I was talking about before, where you're basically running from one side of the map to the other. That's their new game mode on there. And you go from one side to the other, and you have to kind of get there before everyone else in any way, shape, or form, which is super, super fun. But man, I'm super excited. This is a launch day title. It is unfortunate that a lot of the things that people are talking about with this game is that this game is launching digitally for $80. So Nintendo's freaking increasing the prices again. It used to be $70 for their popular titles on the Switch 1 when they silently increased that. And now they're increasing it to $80 for digital and $90 for physical. I mean, that's what it is for Mario Kart. Their Donkey Kong game that they also announced on here is coming out for $70 digitally and $80 physical. So obviously it seems like games are going to vary. And you could get this Mario Kart game as the bundle that's coming out, because there's a Nintendo Switch 2 bundle coming out for $450, or the pack-in with a Mario Kart game is going to be $500, so essentially it's $50, saving you $30 from buying the digital edition. But still, this is going to set a bad precedent for other companies to do it. That's the only negative thing that's come out of this, is that they're increasing these prices now to $80 or $90 physical, it seems like, from some of their higher-end games. We'll see how that pans out in the coming days and how many other games get launched that way. But yeah, this is really exciting, but also sad that I had to damper with that kind of mood here when it comes to that. But yeah, April 17th, we'll find out more from Mario Kart. The other game I was talking about before that I'm really excited about is Donkey Kong Bonanza. So we didn't get like a Mario Odyssey sequel or 3D Mario game at this event when it comes to a launch day title, but we did get Donkey Kong Bonanza, which in my opinion is a very reminiscent of an Odyssey game, but just starring Donkey Kong. But it does look amazing, as you guys are looking at here. Really excited to play this game and to get into this one when it launches. It doesn't come out on launch day. It launches later on, but I'm super excited for it, and it has really good-looking graphics. You can destroy anything in the world with Donkey Kong and stuff like that, and it's going to create some really cool epic levels, and I can't wait to see this come out on July 17th, right after a month of the launch. And the other game I was talking about, which is the quote-unquote the game that should be a pack-in, but apparently they're charging for, is called Welcome Tour. And this is basically showcasing all the different features that you can expect out of the Nintendo Switch. It's almost like it's a combination of two things from what it sounds like. It's like an online manual created digitally, which has a fantastic look to it. Let's not say it doesn't. You have like a little character there that you're moving around and kind of looking at the different buttons and all the different features that the system does, and it pops up little tutorials and stuff like that, letting you know what the buttons are like doing and how the magnets work and stuff like that. You can see as you go up to certain things, they actually pop up and tell you how it works. As soon as I saw this, I was like, oh, this is going to be the packing game. It's got to be, because it's giving you instructions on how everything works on the Switch and everything. But then we found out it's paid, which is a really interesting choice. They haven't said how much it's going to cost, and it still hasn't come out tonight on how much this is actually going to cost, so I don't know if they're leaving that tight-lipped. But I'm definitely surprised that it's not included with the Switch for sure. But what is also something that people are missing, and we don't know how many are actually included, and that's going to depend on how much this actually is going to cost. When I first saw this, I was like, oh, it's a bunch of manuals, but you can do it like in a 3D environment looking at the Switch, and it shows you everything. But it's not just that's showcasing everything that you guys are seeing here. It is also the fact that they're going to have mini games that you can play, which you guys are about to see right now, and little tech demos and stuff like that showcase how everything works. Now, depending on how fun these tech demos are, like this mini golf one and other ones, at least then you can be like, oh, will I ever replay these and show it to my family and friends? Kind of like some of those packing games in the past that you can at least say like, oh, I could play that again with my family and friends to showcase the Joy-Cons. And like this one here where you're dodging the spike balls and moving your things around. So if there's enough tech demos in here and little mini games, then maybe it may be worth like $20 or $30. It just depends on how much content is actually in here. We obviously don't know how many tech demos and mini games there are on here. Maybe it will end up being worth it, but I'm still completely shocked. This should have been a packing game. Obviously has instructions and everything. It's insane, but hey, here we are with a Welcome Tour on the Switch. Now, even though that Mario Party game I told you is going to be charging for the extra DLC, and we'll see how much that ends up costing, there are going to still be some games that are going to receive free patches, or patches if you're a part of the Nintendo Switch Online membership, like you can see here with Zelda, that are going to get upgrades for resolution and frame rate and all that stuff. And obviously, third parties are going to upgrade their games for free as well when it comes to that stuff as this goes on. And you can also see on this community post that was posted on Nintendo Switch's Reddit stream, you can see all the different prices that have come out for the different games. As I said, Mario Kart, $80 for the Mario Kart World game. Then you have $80 for the Mario Party Jamboree. Plus the expansion together is looking like it's going to be $80. So it seems like a lot of games are going to be jumping up to $80 for the Nintendo Switch 2 edition. We'll see how that pans out as time goes on. But, it's interesting that Donkey Kong is $70, which is a new title as well. So yeah, guys, overall, I'm pretty goddamn excited about this thing. Obviously, I was a huge Nintendo Switch person. I've done a lot of Nintendo Switch videos on this channel, which we will continue to do. And I will definitely be pre-ordering this and getting this on launch day. We'll see what I end up getting. I'm definitely getting the Mario Kart bundle because that's the only real launch game that we're going to be talking about here on the channel. And also their game that they're creating with the tech demo and stuff like that, which we're going to also have as well and see how much that ends up costing. But I'm really excited to see the Nintendo Switch, get it in my hands, put it through its paces, and review it and showcase it to you guys in a review coming up on this channel. So make sure you subscribe to this channel to get all your Nintendo Switch stuff on launch day. Really excited. I'll be getting the console itself with the Mario Kart bundle, with the tech demo game as well. We'll also be getting the camera and testing out game chat and all that stuff when the game launches, and everything else that we can get our hands on. We'll get the Pro Controller as well that they came out with that now has the buttons on the back and the C button and stuff. We'll get all of that stuff, get it in-house, and test it all out for you guys. I'm super excited. Let me know your thoughts on everything you guys have seen, and if you guys are picking one up. Obviously, we're all annoyed that the prices are going up. Not cool. I don't know what to say. I mean, I guess it's kind of expected with everything going on in the world, but it doesn't make it any less cool that now physical games are $90 in some cases, which is ridiculous. Maybe not every game, but it's going to open up the door for a lot of other developers out there on other consoles to do the same, which is going to suck. So we'll see how it goes, but leave your comments down below, all your impressions and thoughts, guys. Thank you guys for watching. Until next time.